What would you do in the heart of the Amazon?
When your purpose is clear, you serve the purpose. When you don't have a purpose, you're confused. You can be a victim. But if you serve a purpose, you just become a servant. I became a servant of one thing. Life needs to be maintained.
Because now I needed to stay alive. There was no place for fear, just place for action.
Victim is a state of mind, is not a real situation. And that state of mind changed dramatically and never returned, never returned.
He's jumping out, he's bleeding, he's holding his knees slashed, he's screaming, the machete!
I just turned around and said, look, do not stand between a young man and his dream. That's all I told him.
Dream is basically creating a reality. The rest is technical. If you have a vision and you see where you want to go, the rest is technical. What do you do to serve it? That's as simple as that.
If you can penetrate the dream of somebody and ignite that, there's no salesmanship needed.
When you have purpose, then, sacrifice makes sense. If you don't have purpose, why sacrifice?
What I tell you?
We left civilization, flew into the Amazon. For 4 days we were walking deep into the Amazon, and after 4 days we arrived to a small community of Saryamas. This was the last. There's nothing past that community. For 4 days we were walking down a trail. Now there's no trail, and when there's no trail, how do you make the next pass? Do you take the machete and cut the vegetation? There's no trail. The only things that we could follow were little tributaries, rivers, creeks, and because the water source will guide us through the forest. But walking by the water is the hardest, because the closer to the water, the denser the vegetation. So what we did, we jumped into the rivers, into the creek, and we're trying to walk as much as we could in the water. Completely wet, our stuff heavy, starting developing blisters and rashes. It wasn't easy at all. And we walked like that for a day, and nothing to eat, and we're starving, but we have no food, because Carl said it's very silly to take food into the Amazon. We have rice, we have beans, and we have a shotgun. So we'll hunt. But on the river, everything changes. Carl is like a shaved Samson. The only one of us that doesn't know how to swim is Carl. So on the raft, Kevin is taking leadership, but Carl is not about to give leadership up. So both of them are fighting and screaming, and Kevin is giving instruction, Carl is giving the opposite instruction, and we are split. Marcus follows Carl, and I stayed by Kevin.
The river became very narrow as we entered the canyon. The sheer cliff started building from both sides. We started shooting rapids when we hear a terrible noise, and we see that huge rock, and then came the heat.
And before we know it, we're on the boulder, hanging on the raft, climbing back on the raft, on the boulder. The other side is the waterfall. We stand on the waterfall with our raft trapped in the middle. We are hanging on the raft, jumping back on our feet, looking down, and both of us are shattered. That's the waterfall. I look at Kevin and I see that Kevin is completely pale. I know we are in big trouble. Kevin is looking down at this vast amount of water.
We were really desperate, completely desperate. In the middle of this white water, to be stuck at night. Kevin said, we cannot do that, so here's what we're doing. You hold the machete. He said, you hold the machete in your hand. I'm going to jump. If I'm going to make it to the right bank, you throw the machete after me. I'll climb up the cliff, cut some vines, make some rope, come down and take you out. I was crying by that stage because I knew he was going to die. And I was crying for him, but I was crying for me because I knew he's going to die and he's going to leave me alone here.
So I was holding the machete, looking at him, and then he gave that huge jump.
He flies in the air, he's taken by the water. I look, and then I see him pops. He's popping straight to the right bank. He's jumping out, he's bleeding, he's holding his knees slashed, he's screaming, the machete! I throw the machete in the air, and then everything moves, screeching. The raft lost its balance. By jumping, it pushed the raft off the rock. I'm falling into the waterfall. I'm screaming, Kevin, don't leave me. He's screaming, hold on to the logs. I'm throwing myself on the logs. I hold on to them, and I fall into the waterfall. And then I'm inside the guts of this river. Tremendous pressure on my chest, pitch black. I just close my eyes. I'm afraid to open my eyes. I hold and I feel I'm bursting. There's no air. I cannot take it anymore. And then suddenly the raft just pops out. And as it pops out, I grasp for her. It feels like gold. It's so precious. And I look back for a minute, second. I see Kevin. Kevin is there waving the curve. I don't see Kevin anymore.